Ladies and gents, welcome back. Now, with trust in the media at an all-time low, the relationship between journalists and people on the ground, the public, especially in cases of protest, has not been worse. Let's just say that. So we have this from CTV News Vancouver. Something has changed. That's what journalists across Canada are saying when it comes to their relationship with the public. Now, I want to preface this with something that I posted when I first started covering these news articles, or the whole protest as a whole. In case you are confused, there is a group of truckers in Canada who are 90% vaccinated, protesting government overreach and citizens being tracked with QR codes. If you hear otherwise, you might be being lied to. Now, in their interest of gaining trust back in the public, especially with those who are protesting, they decided to run this article.
Well, something has changed. That is what journalists across Canada are saying when it comes to their relationship with the public. Tensions have run high during the pandemic, with some claiming the news media is lying about the virus and acting on behalf of the government.
Wait,
abuse
what?
Towards reporters and
No, they're complaining that they're lying. You're lying about and misrepresenting what their complaints are. Is that what you just did again? I mean, you can't make this up. And of course, let me guess, we're going to go right into a hit piece about how journalists are being treated on the ground. And let's
camera
right
crews has become increasingly common, and there's concern the threats and harassment will live on long after COVID-19 is eradicated. CTV's Travis Prasad reports.
How do you guys feel about yourselves spreading lies? Those of you watching this, that's fake news. This is government funded.
Journalists have been subject to claims like this before, but during the pandemic, the contempt has erupted. Last week, a local news crew was spat on during a so-called freedom rally at the Pacific Highway border crossing.
Now that is horrible. I'm not going to lie. That is absolutely detestable behavior. With the news misrepresenting people is detestable, but to spit on them in response, not good. And in that situation, you know that this is exactly what they're going to do. These are the tools of their trade. They're going to go out and they're going to do exactly that. Now, it would be really, really difficult, I guess, for the news media to figure out what the trucker convoy message was. It's really hard to go to their main website and see what the actual stance is. So this is why people are actually frustrated with the media right now. They're frustrated with the media not because of whatever they say. They're frustrated because of the misrepresentation of the message that they're actually trying to put out. So we had Justin Trudeau saying the infamous thing about the truckers being a undesirable minority of people with unacceptable views, and people in response to that may change their Twitter handles, their bios on the internet to unacceptable whatever your name happens to be, because it's the misrepresentation, and the news media is just ever so eager to follow behind on this story, right? So here we have actually people on the ground that are shouting down reporters and not behaving nicely, let's say, not being cordial in their behaviors. And that is to say that it's happening, but it's not that people on the ground aren't actually calling this out. Here we have Viva Fry in a situation where CNN was interviewing a gentleman here, and this gentleman here was, let's say, not doing the right thing in the moment, and he was obstructing, and it was just, even though he feels like CNN was not going to be covering the news correctly, he was actually putting himself in a position to have them go and say something bad about the entire protest based on what he was doing. Here we go.
One of the goals is to simply is to get a group of people that you can get everybody angry with. And in this case, it's the unvaccinated. The unvaccinated is a control group that shows you the vaccine is not necessary. It doesn't work.
So there he was, pushing himself in front of the cameraman.
Could you? Okay, but for the benefit of all of us, would you mind letting them do their job?
Yeah, and that was Viva Fry saying, "Come on,
let's move it this way.
Just let them do their job. Let's do this." So Viva Fry later, after the interview was over, and actually goes up and talks to the guy and says, "Hey, could you not do that?"
Also going to tell that guy to leave him alone, because this is the type of behavior that will let CNN make up the stories. Guys. Dude. No, I'm calling them. No, but this is what they're going to do. I know how to stay calm, man. Trust me. Okay. Same thing.
Yeah, I guess that didn't end well.
So, we will agree to disagree on tactics. I would suggest that tactic is not the best. Okay, do you mind being on camera?
So that's the thing. If you're at one of these protests and you have disdain for journalists and you start shouting vitriol at them, they're going to run a story. They're going to run a story on you, and they're going to complain about it and spin the narrative and make you look like the bad guy. But we all know what's going on. Misrepresentation is the name of the game. So I think it's unfortunate that, people in the media feel that they need to take specific instances and put that out there as the entire narrative of what's happening, because they're obviously not showing what's been happening on the ground. Here we have Canadian news outlet removes company logos from vehicles as public trust in media continues to plummet. Jeremy Thompson from CTV. It's a sad day for me, and CTV Edmonton has made the decision to remove the branding from our vehicles for safety. I'm proud of the excellent and vital work we do, perhaps more important now than ever. I'm proud to represent that in public, but it's just not safe right now. I don't believe that it's just not safe right now. It's just people aren't going to respond to you well when you lie to them or lie to the public about them publicly. And that's a really, really sad state of affairs. And I'm going to end it with this. Again, just like my other video, this is such a good quote. And this was Jordan Peterson's interview the other day, and talking about is it okay for people to lie for the greater good? Because I'm sure the journalists that are spinning the truth think that they're doing it for the greater good. And let's have a listen.
I think that if you were to ask someone, is it okay to lie for the greater good? They would say, well, the majority of those people on the extremes would say yes. And then I wonder, well, perhaps that's an indication that you're on the extreme. Perhaps if you have a worldview, I talk about this concept called Weltanschauung.
That's a good idea, man.
Perhaps if you have a Weltanschauung that says that somehow you can't tell a lie and be for the greater good because the truth and the good are tied, then perhaps you're not on the extreme.
I think that's right. So I think that's a really smart idea. The idea that if you have a belief system politically that requires any lies to support, then that's an indication that you've gone too far. I think that's a good rule of thumb.
And I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. So let's keep that image in our heads moving forward, that if you shout down a reporter, that's probably the only thing they're going to show on television. All right, guys, keep on trucking.